Okay, here we go. Our G-bob, helmet G-bob. It's going to lie really heavy with tons of texture. So I'll start off in the back and I'll come out a diagonal section right below the occipital bone. I'll start to cut in a super steep graduated angle. The angle that I'm cutting here is at about 60 degrees. Now the next diagonal section pivots off the original. I elevate the hair slightly, have my comb angle the shape that I intend to cut, fingers follow my comb, and I go in and I cut a super clean line following my guideline. Now, this time around, my model's hair is super thick, so you have to be conscious about the size of the sections and the manner that you comb out each section. This is imperative. So it's about the control. It's about your stroke count and your always being on elevation and on guideline when working with very thick hair. So to be the most accurate, you have to have a tremendous amount of awareness of everything that's physically going on with your two hands, the head shape, and the texture that you're working on. So cut in my guideline, comb the hair to natural fall. Now for the next section, I prepare to elevate slightly higher, and with this technique, as I progress, each section will gradually pivot towards the ear. Now you have to make sure that after this third section, you don't overcompensate for that angle. When you're cutting your guideline, you feel a really strong eye angle. At this point where you're near the occipital bone, the angle feels like it diminished, but it really hasn't. It's still there. You just add a different place on the head shape. So long as you're sticking to your guide, you will be fine. A lot of times people, when they attempt a G-bob at this point, they'll start to over direct the hair back, or they'll cut in a more intense angle because they feel that the shape is different. The shape is still the same, you just add a different place on the head shape. So as you near the ear, the length will organically grow longer. So don't adapt your angle. I get this all the time. Like students, they flip out that angle, and if you change that angle as you near the ear, that one length through the front will go crazy short, and then you just blew it. You just messed up this G-bob. And you have to approach the G-bob with a tremendous amount of respect. In my opinion, it's one of the hardest haircuts to execute. So approach it with that intensity and look at it as a challenge every time. You can never do it perfect, but each time you do a G-bob, you should do it better and better. So now as I move above the occipital bone, every section is over directed to the exact same point. So here I'm building weight. Make sure that your elbow, fingers, comb, section, scissors, shoulders, pelvis, they're all asymmetric. They're all an acute angle. Feel your shape. Become the shape you actually intend to cut, and you'll have a greater amount of control. And as I reach the crown area, I'm using slightly less tension just to allow for that cowlick. Again, working with super clean guidelines. This section I'll break into 3 points, and as I move towards the ear, my body pivots towards that ear. So for the first area, I was behind the occipital bone. For this section, I pivoted a little bit more. And now for the last portion, I've moved her head towards me, so that way I don't have to pivot. There's a lot of ways to achieving the same result. But just keep in mind that on the left side, you really need to be standing in front of what you're cutting. So make visual assessments. Check out your shape. Okay, so now I'll connect my shape to the front. My sections are diagonal. I over direct this area. The first portion, I'll break it in half. So from my guideline comes from the back, and as I near the ear, I angle my fingers from high to low, and I check in the same angle, the same shape, the same length. And then from the ear, working forward, I comb the hair between my teeth or exactly to natural fall, and I'll cut in a square line there. So as you're cutting the square line, pay very close attention to the angle of the tips of your shears. The angle of the tips of your shears determine the actual angle that you will be placing into the hair once those shears close. So next diagonal section. So as you cut a G-bob, in your mind, it has to work fast. You have to know the technique. So again, I'm taking my guide from the back. Now start to incorporate it through the front. So even though I sectioned off the back and front and I approach them separately, as I work through the front, I go back and reincorporate the back. So it gives me a higher level of control. So again, for this area, I'm angling my fingers from high to low. And then from the mid-ear to the front, I comb the hair exactly to natural fall. Make sure you're right in front of what you're cutting. Make sure your eyes are level to the shape that you're producing. So that way you can check to make sure that you're actually combing the hair exactly to natural fall with zero over direction, because it's a lot easier said than done. As you're cutting a G-bob, there are thousands of minute calculations you have to do and adaptations throughout each section. So just get the skill set down and just refine it every time you do it. Going back and reincorporating the back area. When I stroke the hair, I make my comb angle the shape I intend to cut, and then my fingers follow my comb. And for this area here, again, I first level my eyes. I comb the hair exactly to natural fall. And if you use your comb and make sure that the hair that you comb is parallel to the teeth of your comb, that's a pretty strong indicator that you are at natural fall. And always makes proper allowances for that ear. The protrusion of the ear can throw off your sides. And also you have to ensure that both ear levels and ear size are symmetrical. Most people's ears are not symmetrical, so you also have to take that into consideration. Okay, so now that the right side is done, prepare to up your game. I'm throwing this in slow motion so I can allow you to prepare mentally for the challenges that are coming. I have to cut every single new section to the exact elevation, angle, tension, moisture as the right side. So you really have to keep in mind throughout this entire haircut and constantly cross-check. During the edit, I cropped out the cross-checks just to control my time, but I'm always cross-checking. So first, prepare yourself mentally and get ready for a higher challenge, because if you thought that the right portion of the haircut was challenging, the left side should be much more challenging. And that's a good indicator because it keeps you sharp. When your awareness is heightened, you will make less mistakes. Okay, so again, a diagonal section. I'm working off the guide to the opposite side. I angle my fingers, scissors, section, comb, elbows. They're all parallel to the shape that I'm actually creating. Become the shape that you are creating. Don't be lazy. Move your body. Know your shape. Feel your shape. When you become an acute angle throughout a G-bob haircut, you will get a higher sense of understanding of what you're actually accomplishing. With the next section, I increase my elevation slightly, still working off the base of my comb, because the base of my comb, that line won't change. My comb is a 0-degree angle. So what I do is I'll comb out the section, I'll line my comb out, and then I'll have my fingers follow my comb to my cutting line, and there I'll take down the hair. So that way I can't allow my own brain to mess me up. Sometimes we're our biggest enemies. My brain and my fingers can change shape. My comb cannot. So always standing exactly in front of what you're working on. Working clean, manageable sections. Increase your sections gradually. Work off a super clean and perfect guideline. Align your comb. Have your fingers follow your comb. And that'll minimize your margin of error dramatically. Seriously, dramatically. So now that we're reaching the occipital bone area, here I'll start to begin to build my weight. So again, fingers, elbows, scissors, comb, sections, They're all parallel. Calm, cool, collected. So now that I reach beyond the occipital bone, from here on, through the back, I will be over directing every section to the exact same point. So here I'm building my weight, I'm building my length. My eyes are exactly in front of what I'm cutting. Comb the hair straight out. And as I work towards the ear, my body position actually pivots slightly to the left with each progressive section. So the next section is quite large, so I'll break it into two smaller, more manageable sections. I over direct the hair exactly to that level where I cut the occipital bone at. And I pivot slightly to the left. So that I'll allow myself to compensate for my natural tendency to over direct the hair too strongly forward. Now as I reach the ear, comb the hair to natural fall, and she has a really jumpy cowlick, like right at the hairline, so I have to be aware of that. But awareness is half the battle. Okay, so next section, again over directing to the same level, angle, and elevation that the occipital section was cut at. Comb the hair super clean and perfect from the roots to the ends. Don't allow your comb to deviate. And as you work forward, progressively shift your body forward also. So you're also chasing that guideline with your body. So you're standing in front of what you're cutting and your eyes are right there. Okay, again, for that awkward growth direction, just I comb the hair to natural fall really carefully and make sure I check that in. So now the section is reaching the crown area. It's the same technique. If you find that your client has a super jumpy cowlick, here you can like flip your comb and use less tension, comb the hair using less tension. It's better to allow for longer lengths than going too short. Once we go too short, we can never go back to a longer length. So it's always better to be safe than sorry. Okay, as I reach the front area, I adjust her head in an upright position and my eyes are focused on the angle of the tips of my scissors and ensuring that I, again, comb the hair to natural fall. And that's the only way that I found to really handle like crazy, awkward growth directions. So again, working in small, manageable sections. As I work forward, my body pivots forward, following my guideline. When your guideline's on, it will always be very clear and evident. So you can make assessments as to over direction and elevation according to the cleanliness and the clearness of your guideline. Okay, so here I'll start off the finish. Just flat wrapping. I'll use a significant amount of tension because again, her hair is super thick. Make sure that your moisture is consistent. When you're dealing with super thick hair, make sure that when you dry it, it's quite wet. You don't want to go in like with really thick hair, have it like 80% dry and then go out and get the finish, because you won't get that cuticle nailed in like solid. It won't be shiny, it won't be smooth, it won't be the most excellent. So make that effort. Maybe the blow dry will kill you, but it will pay off in the end because the client will love the result. And secondly, it will allow you to check off your haircut in the most perfect manner. Okay, so now the hair is dry, go back with the opposite sections, right? So I'll comb the hair out and I'll just remove weight. I'm looking for an even distribution of the weight, and I have to be able to comb the hair from roots to the ends in a super smooth and polished manner. So again, comb the hair out, elevate, and notice how this area is a bit heavier. I'll texturize it more than the other areas. At the occipital bone, that's where I began to build my weight, so I can anticipate when I'm texturizing the hair, I'll have to go back and just put more attention to that area, because again, that's where I built up the weight. And when you're working with super thick hair, do not rush this portion. Do not over texturize. Take your time, do it right, because if you over texturize the hair, it may look good when the client leaves the salon, but in a week or two down the road, your errors will start showing, and showing very vividly and clearly. So sometimes you get thinner hair and they're faster haircuts, sometimes they're thicker hair and they're longer haircuts. It's a personal standard. You have to give 100% every single time. Okay, and through the back nape area, I'm working in two curved lines that will meet in the center back. So just working with the tips of my seam, the shears, and this is all detail work here. My eyes are level to what I'm creating, and you have to understand that you better give the back of a haircut a lot more TLC because it always gets neglected. The client cannot see the back of the head. They only see the front. So in the morning when they're styling the hair, we can work on what we can see. We cannot see the back. So I always put a lot of TLC and extra attention in the back portion of the haircut because half the people, half the time, see your end result, see your standards, your level of excellence, your reputation, your brand, your integrity from 360 degrees. So half the people, half the time, see your end result from the back. That's really dangerous, but awesome if you understand this. Okay, now just texturizing through the sides and the top. Now clean out my one lane through the sides. Just have your eye level, and now that the hair is finished naturally, your hair is quite bulky around the ear, so it's that protrusion comes into play. But don't rush it. Take your time, do it right, and that's how you deal with G-bobs. It's all about the details, and you can't rush it. All right, that's our G-bob, our helmet G-bob. Thicker, heavier, a bit bulkier with a lot of texture, and that's our intention. Enjoy.